It's the Stadium Journey Overtime Podcast, and hey, we got the old band back together. It's actually Obey the Puck, masquerading as Stadium Journey, because we got our old friends Dan Law here. We got Kelly Levy here, who's come out of hiding. Kelly, nice to see you. I'm here,
Howdy.
Paul Baker, Puckman RI, Dan Law 83. Kelly Levy, I don't think you are an online person anymore, so I'm not even going to try to remember your handle. Sked Central, that's it. And we are joined by a couple of old friends and new friends. We got Melissa Burgess here from the Victory Press. Melissa, thanks for joining us. And we got our old friend Ryan Burgess here from the Buffalo Beauts. And why are we all getting together? Why are we doing Obey the Puck with some new friends and old friends? Well, there was some big news in women's hockey just a week ago, and we decided we needed to get the band back together and talk about it. So, where do we start with the big news? Melissa, you have been covering this by like an actual journalist. So I'm going to let you take over and let our readers know what the heck happened in women's hockey just over a week ago.
Thanks, Paul. So it's been a whirlwind of a week. For those who maybe don't know what kind of happened to start, just to get a little bit of a primer here, is the Premier Hockey Federation, the PHF, formerly the NWHL, has been, existing for 8 seasons now. And a few years ago, an organization called the NWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association, formed, completely separate from the PHF. This was a group of players who, many of them refused to play in the PHF and wanted to campaign for things like better salaries, better working conditions, things like that. So they formed this separate association over time to work on those things. So what happened last week is, all of a sudden, Thursday night, players from both sides, and I say sides even though I don't like to play it like that, because it's not like they're against each other, they're both kind of working for the same things in some sense. But players from both sides were on conference calls with their respective leaderships, and were both told, to the surprise of pretty much every single person, that the PHF had been bought out. And this was, crazy news. I found out, right pretty much as the players did. Very unexpected. And the PHF was bought out by a group called the Mark Walter Group, who has been working with the PWHPA to eventually create this new professional women's hockey league. So basically, by buying out the PHF, that kind of clears the path for a single, more quote-unquote professional women's hockey league in North America. From what I've talked to players and other people that I've talked to, everyone on both sides was very surprised by this news. No one saw it coming. And, it's impacted hundreds of players on both sides. So that's kind of the basis of where we are right now.
Yeah, exactly. This came out of nowhere, and I'm actually kind of glad that we waited a week to talk about this, because I think if I would have tried to talk about this a week ago, it would have been all emotion and not fact. And Ryan, and talking to you over the past week, I think you feel a lot the same way I do, very much the same way I do.
I think you could safely assume that it's been a whiplash from, finding things out just as the players, and I've had the opportunity to speak with a couple of other Butte staffers, our social media manager, our equipment manager I spoke with today. It's been a week, let me put it that way.
So yeah, a lot of people I've talked to have asked about this, and they said, "All right, so this is they're thinking back like when the NHL absorbed a bunch of teams from the WHA, or when the NBA absorbed some teams from what league was that? Like, why can't I think of what league that was?
WHA.
Yeah. This is not a merger. This is more akin to a corporate takeover. Am I right?
That's correct. This is, as a PWHPA source told me, this is a straight buyout.
So the acronyms are just I trip over these acronyms all the time. We'll call them the PW, I guess, and the PA. They sound too similar, but anyway, basically the Olympic players make up the bulk of the PWPHA. Am I safe in saying that? Am I dumbing it down too much? I forgot what my point was going to be, but
Nice.
Geez, that's what kind of week it's been. I apologize for that. Yeah, the two groups were running their own parallel leagues, and Dan and Kelly, we have talked about this for years. Ultimately, their goal is the same in the long run: is to get one league where all the best players are playing, where the players can make a livable wage and have a successful entity. Where the groups differed was how to go about that.
Kelly, since it's been so long, why don't you take this part?
What? Wait, what part am I taking?
Your response to Paul. Can you hey, over here?
Yeah, I got it. It just yeah. What Paul said is true. You had two groups, same ultimate goal, disagreeing on the how, why, and when to get there, or if they would get there or whatever. I don't really know what to say. I'm glad that there will be a single league. I'm not happy for all the people who found out, it's kind of out of the blue that all of a sudden they didn't have a team or an organization anymore. I hope that kind of pain and confusion will be worth it in the long run. I don't know too much about the group that bought out the Premier Hockey Federation. The name that stuck out to me was Billie Jean King, because I know she's been involved in sports leagues for quite some time, and I know it's not just her; it's a group that uses her name along with other people.
I think some of the Los Angeles Dodgers ownership is involved as well. Is that right?
Ooh.
You're correct. So just to step in here, it's the Mark Walter Group is the ownership, and they're like the owners of the Dodgers. Stan Kasten, who is a part owner of the Dodgers, is a board member for the hockey. I'm just going to call it the Hockey League because it doesn't have a set name yet. So Stan Kasten will be a board member, and Billie Jean King is also a board member, along with Alana Klaus, I think her name is. I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong. So their involvement is really as the board for the new league.
So I guess part of our confusion too is information's coming out in bits and pieces, and nothing is set in stone yet. They haven't the league. That's a nice way to do it. We'll call it the league. Hasn't released a bunch of their plans. So what we're dealing with is a lot of rumor, a lot of speculation, and we do know we have heard some things. We can't confirm them. We don't know how correct they are. Melissa, maybe you know a little bit more than the rest of us. So the plan right now is one league, best players in the league. Everybody's going to be available to try out for this league. The PWPHA, the Players Association for the league, ratified a contract. All right, here's one thing. They ratified an 8-year contract. That seems really not in their best interest for a brand new startup league, an 8-year contract. What's anybody's opinion on that? Is it something that gives the league stability, or is it a death wish by the players?
Just from an outsider looking in, my thought on that is, what is my thought on that? My thought is that, in seeing Melissa review some of the things that are in the CBA, it's my take that there's a lot of good things that are codified and solidified in that. I think it's a great starting point. And we'll see what this new league looks like after 8 years. Certainly there's going to be some things that are going to have to be adjusted or changed based on both player and ownership feedback.
So a positive about a long-term CBA is that it gives the league a good foundation to build on. Potential stumbling block is if things don't work so well, you may be stuck in something that's unyieldy or doesn't work. Sorry. So I know one of the goals of the league is to give the elite women hockey players who play for the league a livable wage. So one of the complaints that the Olympians had about the PHF, see, the acronyms are going to get me. I have mush brain right now. It's a Friday night when we're recording. Was that it was never a livable wage. A lot of players had to have a real job during the day, and then be hockey players at night. So the goal is to make it so everybody who plays in this league, if they choose, can be hockey players, professional hockey players. So I think the goal, as I saw it, the average salary is going to be about $55,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. A year. Upper level 80, was it 85 or 90,000? So, you're not going to get rich, but it's a livable wage. You can make a career making that much money a year.
Yeah, so
Hopefully.
just going off of the information, because I have a copy of the CBA. Minimum salaries will be 35,000, and then the stipulation is that average salaries on each team will be 55,000. There is no maximum salary.
Okay.
And there's also no stipulation of a certain salary cap for the teams right now. Obviously, that could come later, but right now that's what it says. But the other thing with the salaries as well is, so let's say you've got a player making $35,000. That's obviously not a livable wage right now. But there is also a housing stipend of, I believe it's $1,500 a month. So that's a sizable amount, if you ask me. That would more than pay my rent each month. So then if you don't have to worry about paying that rent out of your salary looks a lot more lucrative.
Kelly, go ahead. You were going to say something.
My question whenever I hear about salaries is simply health insurance, especially for athletes. It's kind of, I don't know, it seems to be through the teams. I hope that's the case for the new league. But that's that can eat up that salary real quick if it isn't. But I don't know. I don't know those details. I don't know if anyone else does either.
There will be no employee contribution to the premiums for health, dental, or vision insurance.
Wow. Okay.
That's a plus. So
Wow.
So this summer the PHF did a lot of work and a lot of talk about having a salary cap, which they dubbed as the largest salary cap in the history of women's sports. Players were signing contracts. So in some cases, multiple year contracts for big bucks in some cases. This buyout nullified all of their contracts. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So what happens to those players? I know there were some stipulations as part of the agreement.
Yeah, so I haven't actually been able to talk to PHF Commissioner Reagan Carey yet. We just haven't been able to connect yet. But from what I've heard, and I can't independently confirm this, but from what I've heard, PHF players who had signed a contract for next season will get, I believe it's 1/12 of the salary that they were scheduled, that they were signed for.
Okay,
and players who don't play in another league next season, and that does not mean just this new league, but
no going overseas.
Yeah, the language is vague enough that even if they play overseas, but if they don't play in another professional league next season, they'll also get to share in this $1 million pool, which of course depends how many players are a part of that, if it's anything worthwhile or just kind of chump change.
All right. So should we jump into maybe the biggest part of this announcement, or the rumors? I don't want to say this announcement because this has not been announced, but the biggest part of the rumor mill is that there's going to only be 6 teams in this league to start. Go ahead, Dan. I see the face.
Okay, because I'm gonna be honest, and you Melissa, you can smack me right through the screen when
Lay it on us.
No, it's not that. It's not going where you think. when I had the initial news break, I was excited because the name I paid attention to was Billie Jean King, and I was like, sweet, now get a team in Philly, let's go. And then everything else, that it was like, for me, because I was taking all this news in off Twitter and Facebook and trying to gather as much as possible.
Like the rest of us.
Like, it went like that. And just kind of like that. So in my mind, and I could be completely off base on this, there was no way that I could believe that they're going to start this new Super League. I'm going to call it a Super League with less teams. Which and right around that time, oh my God, there's so much information hitting my ADHD mind that day. The other thing that I read, like around the same time, was I saw somebody tweet, well, that's going to be a problem because then you're going to have some of the players that are not going to make the team. And of course my head went, well, that's professional sports. Yeah. That's the point. I'm sorry. I get it. There's no way they're starting with less after all of that buildup. We could debate, and we can at the end of this episode, about the bads of the NWHL/PHF, but from nothing to this, and then kind of just smack some of it away. I can't believe that that's the first thing I can't believe that. I don't want to believe that, is what I'm saying, Melissa.
Yeah, it was that was probably maybe the biggest shocker, because if you think that the PWPHA with their Dream Gap tour, they had 4 teams. The PHF had 7 teams. So there's 11 fully stacked hockey teams there. And now we're going to cut that almost in half in the first year of this league. So yes, there's going to be some players who don't make it. The worry, I'm coming at this from a PHF because I have worked for the Pride for the last 6 years. So I'm thinking, all right, so the PHF players are going to get the scraps. You know, you're going to take the PW players. They're going to get first dibs on roster spots. So that leaves maybe 40 spots open for PHF play. That has come out to not necessarily be the case, right? They're going to have some kind of tryouts, training camp, so forth.
Yeah, so I think the first thing to keep in mind, well, there's 2 things that I want to point out that have become very clear in the interviews that I've done over the past week. So first thing that Stan Kasten, who was, one of the board members, pointed out to me is that he has never said, and they have never said officially, it's 6 teams. That is what it is believed to be. And, I certainly can see that being the case, but that has not been confirmed yet. So just like the team locations, they're still figuring those out. They're still working those out. So all of that is very much in flux. So we kind of need to take everything that's being said with a grain of salt, because there's still a lot that's not, set in stone yet.
Right.
And I forgot what other point I was going to make. Oh my gosh.
And it's great. I had a counterpoint and I forgot that too. So please, listeners, are sorry. We do know what
I brought up the number of teams, and I brought up the other comment I made was making the team. There's a lot of players that are going to lose out. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's professional sports. But on the other hand, perhaps not cut down the number of teams. That won't really be a problem. I just don't see how you have all that talent. I never watched a PHF game. Was like, this is not as good as the other stuff. Like, I don't understand.
So the Dream Gap tour, which is what the PW players were doing, they had some home hubs. So if we're gonna do some speculating, and this is a podcast, so we're gonna be wildly speculative with a lot of what we do. Exactly. They had certain hub cities. You've got to figure those cities have the inside track for franchises. Would I be right in assuming that?
I would not necessarily assume that. But I do remember the other point that I wanted to bring up, and just something that we all need to keep in mind when we're talking about all of this. So you talked about how you initially thought PWHPA players would have the, kind of first dibs, and then that leaves 40 roster spots for PHF players. But we also have to consider this is not just PWHPA players and PHF players. There are also international players who may want to come over. There are also a bunch of collegiate players who are looking for a spot. So it's a much wider pool of players than, we first jumped to PWHPA players and PHF players, but it's actually a much wider pool of players. But I think in the end, if it is 6 teams, it's about sustainability right now. And it's, not jumping into a 10 team league in year 1.
Right. You don't want to have a 14 team league with 6 of them that are not financially stable or viable. So Dan and Kelly, I know we talked for years and years when we were pumping up the NWHL over the years, is that they started small and grew in baby steps. And we may be looking at that whole process once again.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I only got to go to like 2 CWHL events, but I remember going to one, and it was about a year, I think, or so before its demise, rest in peace. But, it was when the commissioner was talking about expansion. And at this point, the CWHL is 10 years old. And the commissioner was very much, we're still an infant league. So they were taking a very, very gradual approach. And I think the PHF did that in the beginning as well. But if you want to talk about new, markets for the new league, I think, Ryan, I'm sure you can jump in on that.
Well, as someone who went to a Worcester Blades game in the final year of the CWHL, I can tell you firsthand how horrible it is to have a bad team in a bad market. I love to tell the story about the Worcester Blades. They went 0-24 in their season, and their average, they only scored in their season, I think they only scored like 43 or 48 goals, so less than 2 goals a game, and they gave up over 7 goals a game. So their average score was 7-2. It was just not quality hockey. And so you don't want to flood a new league that you're trying to market to the masses as the best league, best women's league in the world. And you don't want to have teams like the Worcester Blades in it. Sorry. So Ryan, go ahead. Speculating about markets. Where could we be seeing teams? I think that's the biggest kerfuffle, at least in my little corner of the country. But go ahead.
Let me start addressing some of these rumors that we've heard. Let me go on the record as saying that it is absolutely absurd that Boston is not reported to have a team. There is so much women's hockey in Austin. It is a true hub in every sense of the word. You've got rinks, you've got ice. There's God knows how many schools there that have women's hockey, especially at the Division I level. It's unfathomable to me that it's report 20. Lord have mercy.
Almost half of all Division I programs are in New England.
It's proven that hockey works in Boston. It's just something that's in the city's blood, like here in Buffalo. We got the Sabres and the Beauts in our blood here. So I really hope that rumor is not accurate. I think Boston is a fantastic location. However many Isabel Cups y'all have won, you sold out Warrior Arena game after game. 3, I'm happy with 1.
Boo!
Hey, I was at the one you guys won, Ryan.
We won't bring that up except to say that Brianne McLaughlin-Biddle is a saint.
Brianne McLaughlin, and she'll still chirp me on Twitter every once in a while about that game.
You deserve it.
As far as some of the other markets, alluding to what Melissa had said a few minutes ago about the PWHPA hubs, I know there was one in Calgary. And the rumors that we've heard, again, stressing rumors, are that Toronto and Montreal will be 2 of the locations. Those make sense.
We've heard 3 Canadian markets, am I right?
Right. The rumor is 3 US, 3 Canadian. So my initial thought was Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, because that's a PWHPA hub.
Yep.
Another rumor I heard is that the 3rd city in Canada might be Ottawa, which would make sense if they're trying to keep travel down, or the cost of travel and the distance down. The US teams, the rumor, or what I think would make sense, is Pittsburgh, because I think the P-Dub had an event there. Correct me if I'm wrong. DC.
Also, just to jump in, Pittsburgh, Amanda Kessel works with the Penguins. So there is an established relationship there.
The other two American markets that I've heard rumors are Washington, D.C. There was a PWHPA event there, very well received. And I think New York City was the third, just to keep that media market. I mean, those are all, suitable locations, but throwing away established markets and with how loyal and how loyal the fans have been and how good the teams have been most of the time. I just hope that's not the case.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
The other
I've
one
heard.
I couldn't. I'm sorry, Paul. The other one I couldn't see them getting rid of right away is Minnesota, because they have been an established hockey team since well before the NWHL or PHF ever came into form.
Right, they ran as an independent team for years on their own. So yeah, I've heard several different variations on your theme, Ryan. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Hopefully there's more than 6 teams, and hopefully some deserving markets don't get left out in the cold.
And even if, as unthinkable as it might be, even if Boston and Buffalo aren't part of the first wave, maybe we're part of the second wave. Maybe we'll be back in it sooner than we thought. So we won't know anything until there's an official announcement, which is how far away, Melissa, that you've heard?
The belief is that in August, they want to have, their big launch press conference gala announcement. So
Right, they're not planning on having the season start until January, so there's a lot of pieces that need to be put into place, contracts, tryouts, leases with arenas. So
I just thought it was odd. What was really the killer for me was I really thought it was odd. There was like zero communication after the announcement was made, like nothing. That I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that the what do I want to call it? The conglomerate that bought everybody out didn't have this plan for weeks. I hope. Melissa, you can smart me up to it. It was hopeless at the end of the night.
I do think it's interesting that it's a week later and we still haven't heard anything official, but the PHF and the PWHPA both put out pretty quick loose statements that really didn't even address the players impacted or anything. But I think that this all was planned, from what I've heard, to have happened months ago. The goal was to have this all done in like February, because they didn't want players to be signing contracts and then have them voided and all that. That was never the intention, obviously. But things fell behind, as things do, and so this is when it just happened to fall into place. And just to be clear for anyone who's watching this, so the PWHPA has now ratified its collective bargaining agreement. That voting started on Thursday night and ended on Sunday night. They did ratify it successfully. That was completely separate from this group buying the PHF. The two things literally just happened to be occurring at the same time. But again, that's a product of the timing, just because this acquisition of the PHF was really in the works for a long time, was supposed to happen months ago. And the collective bargaining agreement has been in the works for, years. So it really just, the two timelines kind of ran up against each other. And so it led a lot of people to think that they were connected, but really they were totally separate things.
So from the PW perspective, why would, or actually I shouldn't say it's the PW, why would this ownership group buy out the rival league and not just start their own?
I think it makes sense, just because, well, first of all, if you want to have the best players, some of those best players are in the PHF. So you buy them out, then you can really have the whole pool of players to pick from. plus just from, you know, a marketing standpoint and everything, it's just easier to have everyone under one umbrella. And, you know, it's what everyone in women's hockey has kind of been working towards. Everyone wants that one league. It's been in talks for God knows how long. And this is the first step of how we get there.
So by purchasing, one of the things I heard about the reasoning behind purchasing the rival league is that the PHF had established marketing arms and social media channels, and et cetera, media contracts. But they are choosing to just do away with all of those. What's the benefit of starting from scratch? What would be the benefit of maybe keeping some of that stuff in place?
So I just pulled up my article from last week, and the quote from Stan Kasten saying what Mark Walter said to him was kind of midway through the season. Mark said to me, we could have an opportunity here to have the best league for all of the best players. Let's just buy the PHF to help facilitate that vision. So really that is where they were coming from.
Wow.
As for, you know, like the media rights and everything, if they're really going to have the best players, then maybe there's a TV deal in there. I know that's something that a lot of people, myself included, would love to see is, you know, not ESPN Plus, but real on the TV ESPN.
But also on ESPN Plus, so I can watch it. Also,
yes, both.
Yes, thank you. Kelly, did you have any questions or anything you wanted to add when we had a break here?
No, not really. I don't know.
No, all good. Paul, continue.
All right. So, all right, panel. Who benefits the most
Judges
from now one league?
I think the fans. I really think the fans will see the most benefit because, as Melissa's article alluded to, read it at thevictorypress.org. As she alluded to, it is the best women's hockey players in the world in one place. It's what you know, we've waited for so long, and this January it'll be here.
Obviously, I would think that the players are going to benefit. Salaries are going to be in a place where they never have been before, so opportunities are going to be there. Who gets hurt by this merger, or not this merger, this buyout?
Just to go back to who benefits, you know, I definitely agree with you, Paul, the players benefit, but it's not just even salary. It's even just the little things that maybe you and I don't think about when we think about a pro sports league, like travel and, you know, planes and buses and, you know, just per diems for food, things like that, we haven't always seen in the PHF that we've known of. Those resources have not always been there for players, and this is really going to take it to that next level and make sure that players are guaranteed by the CBA, guaranteed rights to the per diems, to the, you know, air travel, to, you know, it even stipulates like that they're going to make the best effort to make sure players get either aisle or window seats. Like, it's just those little things that make it a professional level, which I know Ryan and I were talking about, you know, kind of how the Beauts a few years ago, when they were under the ownership of the Pagulas, kind of had a lot of those resources and had that level of professional amenities, and that kind of stirred the creation of the PWHPA. Ryan, do you want to jump in?
Well, just to expand on that, I believe it's not unreasonable to think that a lot of the complaints that certain players had with the way the NWHL was run, that wasn't already happening before. But seeing Pagula Sports and Entertainment come in and operate the Beauts like a professional hockey team should be operated. I mean, I'm talking, you know, meals after practice, access to ice whenever they wanted, access to, you know, weight training facilities, because that's at Lecom Harbor Center. You know, professional social media, even advertising. I mean, I'd be on the 33 going downtown for a Junior Sabres game, and on a digital billboard, there's an ad for the next Beauts game. It was marketed extremely well. They had a video open, even in playing the game at KeyBank Center. I think that really opened the eyes to everybody else that, this is what we should have. And right now, in what's called a professional league, it was a professional league. Only one team out of the 5 or 6 that are there is providing that. So a rising tide lifts all boats. I really believe that was just like the cherry on top that sent the PWHPA into creation.
And as for, who's hurt by all this, obviously, like we talked about, if there's going to be 6 teams, there's a lot fewer spots. There's a lot of players who aren't going to have a place to play next season, who aren't going to make one of those teams, or who just logistically would not be able to move, or, for whatever reason, because we don't know where the teams are going to be. And if I'm living in Minnesota and all the teams are on the East Coast, I may or may not be able to relocate depending on what the salary options are and all that.
Right.
So obviously there's going to be players who are going to be left behind, or who are going to, retire early as a result of this. And that absolutely sucks.
Yeah, I think of, a few examples came right to my mind, like a player like, say, Jillian Dempsey, one of the top players in the PHF. She has an established teaching career. If there's no team in Boston, is she going to drop her teaching career to go play in New York or Toronto? That's a decision she's going to have to make. Or somebody like Mallory Soliotis or Sammy Davis just got their PhDs, have full-time jobs in their chosen careers. Are they going to put their education and careers on hold to fulfill their hockey dreams? These are choices a lot of players are going to have to face sooner rather than later. I mean, as athletes, everybody comes to the end of the road, and usually that decision is made for you. But now some players are going to have to make that decision. All right, do I move on with my life, or do I want to continue to be a professional hockey player? That might thin the herd a little bit.
Okay. I had no fault. Ignore her. She's a bit messy right now. No, I don't see it as a good idea, and I know I know eventually it'll come down to money, and I just don't think it's a great idea to shrink back down with something that's established. Not that much. That's just that bums me.
8 would have been a good starting point.
Gee, I don't know. Maybe
we may be looking at 8. We don't know. Like Melissa said, we don't know.
That just bums me out at the jump, man. It's going to be like James Gunn restarting DC. I'm not going to care at first. Then, if you're going to start that way, call me a curmudgeon.
I've called you that once or twice, among other things.
Shut
up. This is my gut feeling, not based on any kind of evidence whatsoever. Is even if we do start off at 6, I don't think we'll be at 6 for long. Like you had alluded to, Melissa, we've got dozens of college players who are good enough to play professionally entering the ranks every year. We've got players from overseas. I know for the PHF, they were getting players from not only from Europe, but from Asia as well. So I just think there's more talent out there than spots, at least to begin with. So I think the league is primed to grow. So even if we start at 6, even if cities like Boston or Buffalo lose out at first, I don't think they'll be out in the cold for too long.
That makes sense to me.
I know I'm not phrasing these as questions as I should, but
No, you're really not.
No,
That's okay.
I agree. I agree, but also, one thing that I think it was Jana Hetford really stressed to me was that the players in the PWHPA, and I know that's a totally separate group than the PHF players, but the players in the PWHPA who have kind of been working towards this new league and the CBA and everything, they've known all along that, plain and simple fact is there's not going to be enough spots for everyone, and not everyone's going to make it. But the benefit of this is it's not just for the players of today, it's also for the players of tomorrow. You think about a player like Hillary Knight, who's more than likely not going to be around at the end of the CBA,
Right.
or even in the last maybe 2 years of the CBA. So it's not just about the players of today, but it is about the players of tomorrow and setting the ground for them.
And that's something that's been remarkable is the responses from the players. And I don't take this as just union speak. I take this as genuine. Is to a person, they have all said that this is what we've all been working for all these years, is one league with all the best players. Whether, no matter which side of the aisle they're coming from, they're all saying that same message. And some of these players are players that know that their time is limited or their time may be finished now, but they're still saying this is what's best for the game. And that's a pretty important message, I think. With all our hysteria as fans is, oh, we just lost the team we've been supporting for 10 years. That's the thing to remember is this is a very positive development. And that's why I'm glad we waited a week to have this conversation.
It is. And I think, waiting a week, there's been a ton more information that we've learned, but it also kind of lets you step back from, the emotion of the initial shock of it all and kind of say, okay, yes, this is very shocking. Yes, this is really detrimental for a bunch of people, but it's also a really positive thing overall for women's hockey. The quote that Ryan pointed out to me that I should really mention here from Stan Kasten was, this is not a short-term thing. It's not a long-term thing. They envision it as a permanent thing. This is an investment in the future of women's hockey forever. It will change the game. It will change the sport of women's hockey forever.
So going forward, are we envisioning this to be more of a WNBA model or NWSL model? Can it reach those kind of levels of success? Can it surpass them?
I don't see why not. Sky's the limit. As long as this financial support is there, and they get the advertising dollars and the media dollars, as Boris alluded to with the TV deal. Shoot, if that 3-on-3, that 3-ice thing, which I know is just in Pittsburgh, if that can get on CBS, there's no reason professional women's hockey can't get on, television.
The limited times that the PHF was on had any kind of television, they always did some fantastic ratings. So I agree with you there, Ryan. So I guess
saying,
go ahead,
I'm just saying, with all the chances that men's sports has gotten over the last 4,000 years, that this will just this will be fine.
You can literally watch cornhole on ESPN.
I was just going to mention cornhole
so
as well.
If I can watch cornhole, I should be able to watch professional women's hockey.
Do me a favor, pardon the French. I'm gonna let one F-bomb slip and not edit it. I don't fucking watch cornhole. I don't. Put women's hockey on, please. I'll watch it. I can't tell you how many times. I want to put this on record. I can't tell you how many times I've been so enraged, anger, hate towards the NHL and those stupid old guys that run the league, because it is not Barry Getman. Sure, we'll keep it. That I'm like, you know what? There's a bunch of PHF on this weekend. That's what I'm watching. Oh, there's college women's hockey on. Good, I'll watch that instead. Other than sitting through the debacle nightmare that is the Flyers, women's hockey has been usually the go-to the last 2-3 years.
Not for long, Dan. How's our friend Danny Briere treating you so far?
I like the jerseys. I really
orange.
Hold on. If we're gonna go there, since Dave and Mark won't let me talk about this on Stadium Journey, just a quick aside, because Kelly didn't like them either. Kelly does not like those jerseys, and I understand. But this is literally what I've been asking for the last 10 years, because I was like, I don't want to see a remix of the stuff the Bullies were wearing. I want to see something new. They've literally taken little bits from each of the jerseys they've ever had and shoved it into one, and I friggin' love it. Now, if they could put some wins behind those things, that would be nice. Thank you, Danny Briere. I like the moves he's done, but I need to see results on the ice. And I really, really need my one stipulation for me personally to watch a game at the beginning of the season is I don't want to see Tony DeAngelo wearing a jersey with the orange and black. I don't care how much money we have to retain, get him out of here. Anyway, continue.
How do you follow that up?
Tony DeAngelo's not in the PHF, so
there you go.
There you go.
So, as women's hockey fans, where are we going now? Let's talk short term, and then let's pull out our crystal balls. Where are we going to see women's hockey in 10 years?
I think that's a really good question. I mean, I think if you're starting with 6 teams, you grow to 8, then you grow to 10, and maybe you grow to 12 in 10 years. Obviously, you don't want to grow too big, too fast. The money has to be there, but the Mark Walter Group is worth literally billions of dollars, and they are very supportive of women's sports. They also own the Sparks in the WNBA, for anyone who may not know that. So they do already have an investment in women's sports. So there's no reason that there can't be a team in Calgary and a team in Minnesota, and Vancouver, I think, would be a great market for a women's hockey team down the road. Kind of get that, if we start with an East Coast bias, then we start working on that West Coast, a team somewhere in California. Was it the Sharks? Well, the Sharks, the Ducks, they all just worked with the PWHPA.
The Ducks had they had a really successful event in Anaheim where they sold out the pond, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. So, so then maybe you pivot to working there. I do think the support of NHL teams in the respective markets, or OHL teams even, is important. I think that's going to play a key role in expansion down the line. But I also think one other thing that we'll see is the start of a development league at some point, kind of akin to the AHL. And that could maybe fill in some of those smaller markets, but it will also provide more opportunities for more players to play hockey.
Anyone else thoughts on what women's hockey is going to look like in 10 years?
Well,
or what are we expecting out of this new league in the short term?
Well, here, I'll ask the first one first.
Do
I'll answer
it.
the first one. Philly, please. Thank you.
So should we put out our wish list of where should you put teams?
I'm happy. I'm easily entertained. Give me something in Philadelphia and or DC, since that's my locale now, and I'll be happier than a pig in mud. I want to twist this around a little bit, and I want to start with Melissa on this one. This might be hard for you to answer because of all the reporting you did, and I know you got to keep it cool, so you don't have to answer this. It's not going to be that devious of a question. What gets you invested in August? The announcement comes. What is going to get you invested day one? Because I pretty much said it. If I don't get at least 8 teams and they're somewhere near the teams that already existed, I'm kind of like, I don't care. What gets you invested day one? All right, I'm in. That was it. That's all I needed to hear.
Well, I'm already in, obviously. But if I'm not me and I'm just a normal person, I think it's, a TV contract. I think that plays a huge role in it, because you get so many eyes, whether it's I'm sitting down to watch this on purpose, or I'm scrolling through the channels and I see this and I'm, oh, this looks interesting, or, oh, that was a big play that I just saw on Sports Center. Maybe I'll watch the next game in this league. That's that kind of TV coverage that to me is the key.
Brian?
For me, speaking as just now a fan of women's hockey, and as someone who was previously right there behind the glass, but now might be on the outside looking in. I'm following my players. I'm following my alumni just to see if they end up and where they end up. You know, once you're a member of the Beauts, or once you're a member of the Boston Pride or the Whitecaps, you're a Butte, a member of the Pride, or a Whitecap, for example, for life. And you know, I got a lot of loyalty for the players who put on the jersey of the team that I work for. So that's going to be me. Is well, 1A, just following them, and 1B, is this going to be easy to watch somewhere? Because if I have to jump through hoops, I'm out.
Oh,
Well, my answer is going to sound a whole lot like Ryan's, because our roles were identical in different cities. So, yeah, I'm into this league because I want to see where my friends end up, where the players I've got relationships with, where are they going to go? And you know what? If you're playing in Calgary, if there's a lot of ex-Pride in Calgary, Calgary may be my new team if we don't have a team here in Boston. And B, just like Melissa said, just like Ryan said, it's got to be accessible. If I've got to search through cable networks or internet pages to try to follow this league, I've got enough other options near the top of my list where you've. I'm sorry, women's hockey. You gotta make it accessible to me, or else my interest could fall off. I'll keep a casual interest, but yeah, to keep me invested like I am invested, and believe me, I'm invested. I need to be able to find it.
I just don't understand how they couldn't cornhole. How is that precedent? God damn it. Oh,
Piggybacking on what Paul said, I know, you know, we're all three of us that have spoken on this. We're all on the same wavelength, but Paul, I think I can safely say for you that if this new league comes calling back to our towns, we're jumping right back in if they'll have us. Absolutely.
I'm not even thinking about it. I'm in. So
where do I sign?
New league? Here I am. Yeah. So Kelly, how about you? As someone who doesn't have a vested interest like many of us on this panel, what's going to get you into a new pro women's team and get you to get your attention, get your dollars, get you to pay attention to it?
I think we lost that connection a while ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Dan, how about you then? Same question.
I need some sort of. I'm gonna be honest. Mine's loaded, and it's a. I need some sort of connection to the old league. I loved this league. Sorry, I know there were faults with. I don't want to get too into. I know there was problems with some of the ownerships. I know there was problems with some of the coaches. Hopefully that goes away. But I need some sort of, I hate to go back to the wrestling thing. Well, no, I didn't go to the wrestling thing before. I went to the DC Universe crap. So I'll go to the wrestling crap. I need some sort of lineage attaching it to that.
And I think I got just the piece for you. It's my hope that they retain the Isabel Cup as the championship trophy.
Oh God,
It just makes too much sense, at least from my chair.
100%. If that's the lineage that they keep, and it's their Stanley Cup, that's all I needed. But I need something like that, to be selfish for a second. Other than the Philly thing, which is pretty selfish. But yeah, I'll watch anyway. Come on.
All right. I know we just touched on the warm and fuzzy, and that would be a great place to end this podcast. But man, I just had a thought come to my head, and I would feel bad if we didn't at least address some of these rumors about the PHF making themselves available because of financial difficulties and them handing out contracts that we're not going to be able to keep. Melissa, is there any truth to that? Or would that have been a factor in this whole deal? Or was this deal going down regardless?
From what I've heard, this deal was going down regardless. Like I said, I think this deal was supposed to go down back in, January, February. And I think it was an article by Eric Ayala where Reagan Carey talks about kind of working in these parallel universes where they were working on this deal while also working on plans for season 9 in case that deal fell through or couldn't be completed in time. And that's why they were signing those contracts and everything. I don't think there's any truth to the bankruptcy or financial woes rumors.
Awesome. So, all right. I guess, did we touch on everything that we need to touch on? And is anybody got any questions, comments, anything that we did not touch on? I think we were pretty thorough.
Well, I'm gonna share a thought here from Connecticut Will Captain Shannon Turner. And I know I've been struggling with a lot of what she's talking about here, but I'll just share this. It's on her Twitter. And this is to anyone, certainly it applies to me, it might apply to you, Paul, for anyone who might be watching or listening this that was involved with one of these teams in the PHF, from Toronto and La Force de Montreal all the way out to Minnesota, Connecticut, Metro, Boston, and Buffalo. For anyone who feels their worth, value, or impact is tied to the existence of a league or a team, know that it firmly is not. All the time spent, memories made, positive impacts you made on fans, teammates that you know about and don't know about, the success you helped cultivate for however long your tenure was, these moments do not cease to exist simply because a team or league does or does not. So, in short, all this news that's come out in the past week doesn't invalidate what I did or what you did, Paul, or anything that anyone did. We all helped build this and help get it to the point where it is today. I just thought that was important to share.
All right. And geez, I can't think of a better place to end our conversation than this.
No,
so
ask a bit another downer question before we.
I don't have another downer question.
No,
What
come
am I gonna do with myself now?
You only have 50 other teams you announced for.
Yeah. On a
I'm hanging a banner in November. That's fun.
That is fun. So yeah,
I'm
people have
not.
asked me like, "What are you gonna do now?" It's like,
Oh,
this frees up 12 dates, 14 dates in my winter.
Yeah.
So that now
yeah, he'll be fine, folks.
I'll be okay. Don't worry about good old Paulie. So everyone, thanks for joining us. We hope we entertained and enlightened a little bit. We want to thank you all for
I'm so
tuning
glad
into
we
this.
had this conversation. I needed a little bit of therapy after that date.
Dan, that Friday, I happened to be driving up to Buffalo that day because Pam and I we're starting a little baseball road trip, and the news broke, and I think Ryan and it was a good thing Pam was driving because I think we were texting back and forth for a couple hours, just commiserating in our misery. And then Dan popped in randomly sometimes. We got to do a podcast about this. And I said, I'm talking to Ryan right now.
Get him in it now.
So,
I wanted to talk about it. Like there's so much to talk about. And honestly, I didn't really think of it because like I said, I took it as I was like, oh, this is great. This is great. This is going to be great. And then my friend Dana on Twitter, who's listening right now, brought up a point, like an immediate counterpoint that went, it's like, oh, can we get Ryan? That's all sad and crap. It was just an immediate punch.
Dan was full Spaceballs with this podcast. He's like, when will then be now?
Yeah,
Soon.
when will then be that soon? How soon?
Well, anyway, I'm glad we did this. And Melissa and Ryan, thanks for coming on board and joining us. Melissa, would you like to let people know where they can follow your work at the Victory Press and wherever else they may be looking for some fine investigative journalism and the like?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I just want to say to anyone watching this, support the players. That's the most important thing. Support the players in wherever they go forward, whether they go to this new league, whether they go to, play overseas, just keep supporting them. That's really the important thing here is these players, not just now, but for the future. As for my reporting, I'm currently working on a deeper dive into the collective bargaining agreement and kind of taking it in pieces and seeing how it compares to the CBAs of the NWHL and the WNBA. So that will be coming out in the next day or so at victorypress.org. You can follow me on Twitter at _Melissa Burgess. I also cover the Sabres for my website, Dead by the Blade. And what else do I do, Ryan? No, we work for, Canisius and the Junior Sabres during the hockey season. Oh, and Niagara ACHA. Am I missing anything? We do a lot, okay, folks? We're busy people.
That's the way of this lifestyle, isn't it?
Yes.
Ryan, how about yourself? Pimp out yourself, my friend.
Well, as Melissa alluded to, I am the public address voice and music director for the Atlantic Hockey Champion Canisius University now Golden Griffins. That's still unreal to say, and we'll talk more about how all that shook out after we finish recording. I also do Niagara's ACHA team, so I spent some time up at Wire Arena playing with lights because we got a light show. The Buffalo Junior Sabres of the Ontario Junior Hockey League make their return this fall after a 3-year absence due to COVID restrictions. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I try to take people behind the curtain as it is and give them a look at what goes into producing these games. I'm on Twitter at BurgeMania, Instagram at BurgeMania87.
Do the voice, do the voice, do the voice.
For all of us at Stadium Journey, this is Ryan Burgess telling you to take care of yourselves and each other. I'm kidding. Play me out, Johnny.
Burge Mania. I love your handle, man. Dan, how about yourself? Where can we find your funky self?
Dan Law 83. Hold on, wait. You won't hear this, but I Dan Law 83.
Hey, don't be playing with echoes because when I'm doing baseball games, I've got a headset on, and I have found that I am now dealing with hearing the sound come out of my voice, hearing my voice in my ears, and then hearing my voice come from the center field speakers. So,
are you able to hear that?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
exercise 10-4.
What are you talking about? What's the matter with the echo? You got a problem?
Exactly. So I've many times lost track of where I am in a promotional read. So
they did that on Press of Steve once, where it wasn't the echo, but they have Preston, because he's been doing this for 30 years, can do this without a problem, which is keep talking when he can hear a delay in his own voice and not screw it up, and nobody else could do it. And it's one of the funniest things, because I can only imagine you trying to do that when you're hearing your voice come out delayed from 3 different spots.
I've learned that I can turn off my headset, so that helps a lot.
There you go. Yeah, that's what I was like. Just turn off keep going.
So yeah, geez, Ryan, you were naming all your jobs. So yeah, don't feel bad for me because I continue to be the voice of Brockton Rocks baseball, the voice of UMass Dartmouth athletics. I'm doing the men's hockey team. We don't have a women's hockey team. We got to get on that. I do men's and women's basketball. I do football. Anytime they need a PA announcer at UMass Dartmouth, that's me. And I'm also doing sports at Brown. I've done men's and women's hockey. We are hosting the NCAA regionals, and since I am the voice of their hockey teams, I could be doing an NCAA regional next spring. I'm excited about that. Do basketball there occasionally, football, lacrosse, field hockey, soccer, you name it. So yeah, don't worry about me. You can find me online if you'd like to follow my musings and ramblings at PuckmanRI. And for those of you who are just being introduced to this podcast for the first time because of the subject matter, check out our website, stadiumjourney.com. We got all kinds of stuff there. Now, we're going to have to beef up our women's hockey section because all of my old PHF reviews are going to go by the wayside. But that's all right. I'm looking forward to having new places to visit.
Allegedly.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. If you want to check out the Stadium Journey podcast, if you're looking for audio versions, type in HIAC Talk Radio wherever you look for your finest, your preferred podcast. Boy, I must be tired, man. If you'd like to watch the podcast and look at our lovely faces, go to Stadium Journey's YouTube page. We're all there. We are on social medias. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're even on the new one, Vines, Threads. What's it called?
Threads.
Thank you. I'm sorry. We should start a new one called Vines and be on that one too. But
no,
we're
it's
everywhere.
already taken.
Yeah, find us at State. That's why I said it, because it was a thing.
Oh.
You could follow us at Stadium Journey, like, share, comment. You know how that works. So once again, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Melissa and Ryan, for joining us today. And so for Kelly, for Dan, and for Paul, thanks for joining us. We'll see you hopefully at the rink real soon.
For Paul, that's you.